As we all know, Minecraft is a game that has a lot of stuff. It has big, small, big-nosed and wet zombies, it has floating blocks, parallel dimensions, and even the impressive ability to become relevant again a decade after its release. But something that apparently it doesn't have is a real story. There's no motivation for our character, we don't have any written records of anything, no dialogues, and the closest thing we have is a philosophical text after killing the Ender Dragon that basically tells us to stop playing and go live life. And well, yes, Minecraft Story Mode does exist, a narrative video game by episodes that has 2 seasons, but first, no way am I going to spend like 20 hours on blocky dramas, and second, in its official announcement in 2014, it was confirmed that it was not a canonical story for the original game, meaning this is just a story set in that world and nothing more. It's like fan fiction but made with the Mojang logo on the front. So the history of the Minecraft universe, if it exists, is never told to us. It's not even something like the story of Dark Souls, which is in item descriptions or hidden in strange conversations, but rather it's actually never told to us. However, there are clues available. There must be a story behind it. Steve, or Alex depending on your skin, is truly a unique individual. There's not a single mob that looks like him, or her, or even has his abilities. Furthermore, there are a ton of ruins in the Minecraft world and a suspiciously high number of monsters, many of which bear a striking resemblance to Steve. That has led many of us to question its history, and today we're going to talk about it, trying to uncover one of its greatest mysteries. What happened to all the humans? But before that, I have something to say. Literally while I was writing this script, MattPat from Game Theory uploaded a video talking about this exact topic. Upon seeing the notification, I panicked, thinking that amazing person had surpassed me in the race. If you're unaware, Game Theory is an English channel that explores video game theories, and it greatly impacted me. But after finishing watching the video, sadly I have to report that MattPat is wrong on several points, and surprisingly he missed several very interesting pieces of evidence. Now, many parts of his theory are spot on, and he's got elements that I'll talk about in a very similar way because the guy definitely did some good research. So, if you've already seen that video, here you'll find similar points to MattPat's theory, but that's a theory that only manages to give a small glimpse into whatever happened to humans, a topic that has a lot more to it than what he talked about. Here, on the other hand, we will give you a complete answer, based on all the evidence we can gather. The initial task is to ascertain if humans did indeed exist. I mean, Steve might possibly be a deity in this realm or some sort of extraordinary entity who does not originate from a particular species. And although that idea is logical, there is much more evidence that there were other humans prior, similar to Steve but distinct from the villagers. To begin with, skeletons and zombies appear identical to Steve, except of course now they are considered monsters. We don't have confirmation that they were humans before, but their physical appearance is enough proof that the skeletons are reanimated human skeletons, and the zombies are dead humans coming back to life. More evidence is that an infected villager looks different from a regular zombie, and we can cure and turn them back into a villager, which is not possible with regular zombies. We have additional evidence, such as villagers not constructing structures on the same scale or style as the ruins found in the Minecraft world, or their noticeable physical differences from Steve, skeletons and zombies, or the presence of ancient discs in the world. But the biggest proof, in my opinion, is that for a whole week hardly any villagers were added, and in the first pre-release of Minecraft Java Edition version 1, 0.0, they weren't even called villagers. His name appeared in big letters, like the name of a player in multiplayer, and it said testificate. In Latin, this word comes from testificatus, and it means witness, more specifically someone who testifies something. This informs us of something unexpected. The villagers, also known as testificates, witnessed something at a certain moment. Adding to that, the first mob added to Minecraft were the humans, who looked just like Steve, and now we have a starting point. We now know that a long time ago, judging by the ruins, there was a civilization of humans who were Steve's species. Something happened to them, and that's why we see skeletons and human zombies attacking us in Minecraft. That something was probably seen by the villagers, who lived apart from humans, judging by the technological advancements seen in the ruins, an advancement that the villagers don't have. Speaking of ruins, they're really strange, aren't they? I mean, we have different types of temples and monuments with different architectural styles. There are long abandoned mines, crashed ships, and fortresses with portals that lead inside. Looking at it this way, it doesn't seem to tell us much about history, especially because the only ruins of cities we find are underwater. That brought up a very popular theory, which says that there was a cataclysm that caused the sea levels to rise, leaving the cities submerged and forcing their inhabitants to flee to the surface, where they would later live and where we can find the remains of that civilization. But we didn't find any other cities on the surface, and if we pay attention to the underwater ruins, we start to notice even stranger things. The ruins are constructed using materials that are found in the vicinity, as would be anticipated. However, what is unexpected is the presence of sea lanterns in numerous of these structures, particularly in the monuments. There ain't no traces of light sources being used on the surface, like torches or something like that. We discovered solely sea urchins. This is rather suspicious, taking into account the sole reason they would utilize those flashlights is if the city had been constructed beneath the water. Another strange thing is the channelizers. These can only be created with nautilus shells, easy to obtain and heart of the sea. A kind of energy source that can only be found in buried treasures. Buried treasures from a long time ago, I remind you. The snorkels, when activated correctly, allow you to breathe underwater. The mere existence of this item makes it possible for a civilization to have existed underwater a long time ago, especially considering that the only remaining hearts of the sea are guarded in buried treasures. Think about it. If the people in these cities had to flee from the water, then why would they build their houses with light sources that only work underwater? Why place water guardians on your monuments? Should they not have been guardians like golems or something? Guardians of the earth? And more importantly, why is it there, in those ruins, where we primarily find the drowned and submerged remains? Yeah, those water zombies show up from the ocean, but most of the time we can find them lurking around the underwater ruins. This implies that regardless of their prior identity, it is likely they perished there, resulting in something highly strange and unusual. If these humans perished in those cities constructed beneath the water's surface, it signifies they possessed an underwater civilization. And even stranger, it was a civilization wiped out, just like the others on the surface. Oh yes, the rest. It is clear that it was not only one civilization that constructed everything based on the architectural modifications in the various structures, although it is peculiar that we are able to discover wells in the deserts, pyramids and temples, and even deserted mines, but not a solitary city. That has led some to think that humans lived underwater and had structures on the surface too, but I don't believe it. This brings us two more plausible possibilities, either different civilizations or a single civilization existing throughout the entirety of time. And the truth is, even though I prefer the second option, I think both are equally possible, although in the end they don't really influence the rest of the story we're slowly uncovering. Let me explain. We have a clear tech progression when analyzing the different temples and structures. The desert pyramids used TNT for their traps, which, let's remember, is just gunpowder with sand. The jungle temples have functional redstone circuits for their traps and secret rooms. And in the underwater structures we have flashlights, and it's almost certain that they use the breathers, a super advanced technology used to breathe underwater. To conclude, in the strongholds or fortresses we discover the Allen portal, which is clearly the culmination of the technology of that civilization, enabling interdimensional travel. This could suggest the path that civilization took throughout the ages, but we don't have enough evidence to say for sure that it was like that, and that they simply weren't different human civilizations with different levels of technological and architectural advancement. However, as I mentioned, it is not of great importance. We have definite knowledge about a few things. The only cities that survived, more or less, were the ones that were underwater. Something exterminated the humans, and in the end, some humans sought to travel. A country. Clearly we have some pretty big holes in our timeline, but I think we can fill them by exploring a bit in the Nether, known in Spanish as the Underworld. As we all know, the Nether is Minecraft's representation of hell. It is filled with lava, there are terrifying monsters, and we even encounter tormented souls, which are visible in the soul sand blocks. But the most interesting thing is that we know for sure that humans entered the Nether and then returned to the real world, the overworld. This is extremely clear, bearing in mind that we can discover chests within the Nether containing human armor and horse armor. Chests that are conveniently located inside massive structures known as fortresses. Furthermore, we can find potions and treasures buried in the overworld. Potions that can only be created using materials that can only be brought from the Nether. This tells us, without a doubt, that at some point humans discovered the Nether, went in and managed to come out, building fortresses inside it. We can go a little further and deduce that the presence of these fortresses indicates that they were there for some time, and this opens up a very strange possibility, which I haven't seen discussed anywhere else. The biggest mystery when trying to find out what happened to humans is not where they ended up, since that is easy to deduce by exploring the Endo a bit, but exactly what happened to them and why they ended up practically extinct. But I have an idea that could provide us with a potential solution, a rather peculiar solution. As we all know, in the world of Minecraft, magic is the prevailing force. We have witches, potions, enchantments, dragons, and we can even travel to the Nether realm. So the most logical thing is that what created the zombies and skeletons had a magical origin. I mean, to cure infected villagers you use golden apples and weakness potions. And these two categories of creatures, zombies and skeletons, are incinerated by sunlight. However, human zombies are incurable and cannot transmit the infection to Steve. This is significant, extremely significant. This informs us that zombies possess a distinct source. Those zombies ain't just infected humans, but humans who went through something else. And what if that something had to do with humans disturbing the natural order of things, settling in the Nether and utilizing soul urine infused with the energy of these souls for the purpose of creating potions? What if zombies and skeletons aren't a mutation, not something like that, but reanimated dead who started walking? Seriously? Interestingly, these mobs are classified as no muertos, which in English is undead. Undead refers to someone who was dead, but is no longer. Something that seems to support that crazy theory is the smite enchantment, or punishment in Spanish. Smite is a term primarily utilized in the Bible, signifying to obliterate or annihilate, yet it commonly alludes to a devastation administered by God. It is a sacred strike, that is, a strike against the forces of hell. This enchantment in the popular game Minecraft enhances the effectiveness of weapons against undead enemies, such as zombies and skeletons, making them more vulnerable to attacks. Actually, this would explain most of the gaps we have in our timeline. Humans enter the Nether and blow it up, getting into a conflict with the forces of hell. That's why they build fortresses there, and these managed to hold out for a while, until the monsters managed to advance, and the undead destroyed the villages in the overworld, human villages. Not the villagers, since it was the humans who were to blame for everything in the first place. Humans would have been forced to flee, in this case to cities in the ocean, the only safe place, and the cities on the surface end up devastated. That is the reason why we do not find ruins of cities on the surface, and that is the reason why we have monuments underwater. Do you remember those underwater temples? Huge and strange, they're called monuments, and I reckon they're monuments to wars or events in that big conflict. But once the people grew old and died under the ocean, the drowners, underwater zombies that didn't exist before, started to appear, so they had to flee again. But this time there wasn't a completely safe place. Not in that dimension, and this is where the end comes in. We know that the end is the next part of our timeline for several reasons that we will see, starting with the strengths known in English as strongholds. The name of these structures is quite interesting, as it tells us that those who built them were protecting themselves from something, and the word stronghold in English is generally used when talking about the last fortresses of a faction that is losing. In actuality, it means strength, but that is how it is utilized. These fortresses are equipped with libraries, small prisons, and most importantly, a portal to land. A portal that we are aware humans traversed and through which they could never make their way back. You see, the only way to get out of land is by killing the Ender Dragon. But when we arrived, the dragon is alive and the place is full of Endermen, with no humans in the whole land, even though we found boats and built cities. So it's obvious that once their underwater cities were no longer safe, the humans fled. seeking refuge in their strongholds from the underworld forces. They opened the portal and entered a new dimension. No human remains found, but clearly they spent a significant amount of time at the location. We have land cities, with tiny entrances for an Enderman, yet ideal for a human to enter easily and comfortably. Lit by lend rods needing nether materials to make, and with chests that hold beetroot seeds, they are illuminated and even have chests with beetroot seeds. We also have lend boats, practically the same as those found in the overworld, but inside they have a brewing stand and potions, with chests and an elytra, an item shaped like wings that allows the player to glide. All of this is undeniable evidence that there were humans here, and strangely enough, they never left land. But by examining the cities and the end itself a little, we can get a somewhat clear idea of what happened there. Something that surely captured your attention when you observed the boats is that they all possess a dragon's head at the bow. Plus, they have armor inside, life potions, and used elytras for flying. This, first of all, confirms for the umpteenth time that the ships were not built by Endermen, and it also confirms something that you have probably been suspecting. The humans got into a big old fight with them dragons from Lend and killed them all, except for the one we call the Ender Dragon. This conflict is evident once again when we notice Lend's way. The humans sat on the outer islands, and all the floating islands seem to have been destroyed, except for the central one, which was the one they came through to this dimension. And well, here's the thing, usually people get confused and assume that the humans were defeated by the dragon and its Endermen, but that's not how it happened. As we already saw, the ships have dragon heads, which obviously shows us that there were more dragons, many more, and humans managed to kill almost all of them, except for the Ender Dragon. With this, the name of that dragon makes much more sense. In English, Ender would be something like a finisher, or something that ends other things or people. The dragon is called Ender Dragon because it finished off all the remaining humans, or well, those who hadn't turned into Endermen yet. This last part is pretty obvious if you ask me. It's obvious that humans didn't have any other food in this place besides coral fruits, which are very strange fruits that teleport you when you eat them. Endermen have teleportation abilities, and the Movistiari, the Minecraft bestiary, mentions that they try to communicate with the player. Contrary to popular belief, they don't steal the blocks they take, they actually put them back in a different place. It's obvious that they're trying to build something, but they're not taking the blocks to the end. Another thing that indicates they were human is that they absolutely hate endermites, little creatures that can come out of ender pearls. All of that, especially along with the fact that they could only feed on coral fruit, makes me think that all Endermen are actually humans who gradually changed from spending too much time in the end eating those fruits. That's why they try to communicate, and we can see that they remember their days as human creators and builders when they try to rebuild. That's why when we ultimately slay the dragon, the progress we are provided with is to liberate the end, and the accomplishment is, it is finished. The Endermen were under the control of the dragon, most likely through the Endermites, and now they can have a somewhat more peaceful existence since you finally completed that catastrophic war. But while all that was happening, a new civilization was rising in the overworld, that of the villagers, and a human who mysteriously survived helps them progress. It's for this reason also that when you kill the Wither you get the achievement The Beginning. This is a fresh start for another civilization now that the dragon is gone, and Steve can now create beacons which give him powers of resistance, speed, strength and regeneration that he can use to change the world as he pleases. More or less. So I hope you liked this super long video. It was a real pain in the ass to research all of this, and without the help of my buddy Blood Metal, it wouldn't have come out for several weeks. So many thanks to Blood Metal 117 for editing this video. Thank you very much for watching it. Comment on how you liked it, and I hope to see you in an upcoming video. Goodbye.